Up until a few years ago, I was the most uncommitted person you ever met. I was really good at making commitments, but even better at breaking them. I guess you could say the one thing that I was committed to was breaking commitments. That was until I experienced the true transformational power of commitment and its ability to drive you to what you once thought impossible. You see, my life at the time, I hadn't read a book for almost 15 years. I didn't attend any growth seminars, and I really wasn't invested in my personal development. That was until I decided to make some changes in my life because my life got so difficult. It was a dark time for me. And I became to a point where my lack of commitment separated me from a company and broke some relationships. During that dark time, I read a quote that would change the entire course of my life. The scariest day of your life is the day you die, when the person you are meets the person you could have become. That quote at that time in my life entered me with such force. I knew that I was not the person I could become. And I committed for real this time that the person I am when I die will be the person I could have become. That dark time was a divine force that led me to an entirely new destination that ultimately landed me on this very stage. I was so committed to my future self that I decided to pick up a book, and then another, studying from the greatest minds in personal and professional development. And through this transformational experience, I attended seminars and other growth live events. And it came to a place where ultimately for me, it helped me become committed to my commitments. But I noticed during this journey something quite shocking. With every strategy or blueprint I was taught, I kept hearing that same word again, commitment. But this time as an afterthought. I heard these gurus give powerful strategies to live an extraordinary life, followed by a statement like this. Oh, by the way, none of this will work without commitment, or commitment is the key to get this result. There's that word again. Well, if commitment is truly the key, why is it the afterthought? Shouldn't we be leading with commitment? I knew that I had to do something about it. After all, commitment had changed my life, and I knew that I had to commit first. So I decided to write a book about it called Commit First. The problem for me was commitment sounded so boring, but commitment was anything but boring based on what it had done for my life. So I started the process anyways. Truth be told, I started thinking about writing a book on commitment for about 18 months until one morning I finally woke up and realized that I wasn't even living the principles that I knew would absolutely be in the book. So I built a website online and I went live to all of my social media followers that very morning and announced that the book would be ready and released that very summer. The problem was, I still hadn't written a single word. And for the next few weeks, I wrote about the book, I allowed pre-orders for the book, and I created a path that ultimately led me to my commitment. And for the next 6 months, I posted about it, I spoke about it, I posted on social media, and I even arranged for a live event with hundreds of business owners to have the books in hand. Because of these decisions, I had two choices. Number one, I could not write the book and face the complete lack of integrity for not living up to my commitment to write a book on commitment, or I could just write the book. So I wrote the book. Do you know what's harder than writing a book about commitment? Thinking about writing a book about commitment and experiencing the guilt for not living up to my commitment to writing a book on commitment. We live in a world where commitment is completely fading. According to the National Center for Health Statistics in the United States, the #1 reported reason for divorce was not arguing, not fighting, not even cheating. I mean, it isn't obvious for most that the true cause of divorce is, well, marriage. But besides that, it's from a lack of commitment. It accounted for 73% of all divorces. Commitment to marriage is fading. Commitment to relationships is fading. Commitment to a cause is fading. But most importantly, commitment to oneself is fading. If you want to experience the transformational power of commitment and its ability to drive you to what you once thought possible, there are 3 keys that can help move you to that very thing. Number 1, you must commit first. Commit first means you must create a path to make it easier to keep your commitment and harder to break it. You see, I did this when I went live to all of my social media followers, including allowing them to order the book. I created a path to make it much harder for me to break my commitment and much easier to keep it. For you, this might be hiring an accountability partner, hiring a coach, writing the check, putting down a down payment. You must find a way to create massive leverage on yourself to make it harder to break your commitment and easier to keep it. You see, commitment is a statement of what is, even though it hasn't happened yet. Number 2, you must uncommit to commit. When you make a major commitment to yourself or for who you want to become, lesser commitments will always get in the way of your major commitments. And I get it, it could be scary to take some steps into the darkness to a place you've never gone before. But lesser commitments will always get in the way of your bigger commitments. One easy way to handle this is if a lesser commitment will take precious time, energy, and resources from your major commitment, then you must uncommit. This means you'll be saying no a lot more, and that's okay. William Hutchison Murray says, there is one elementary truth, the ignorance of which kills countless plans and splendid ideas, that the moment one definitely commits, then providence moves too. Number 3, you must be 100% committed, not 98% or less committed. When I was growing up with 3 older brothers, if I made one of them mad, it would end up with me running for my life. Does this sound familiar? I would dash around corners and dive under furniture just to evade their grasp. Eventually, I would make a dash for my room, and if I was able to get there and shut the door completely, there was no way that they could get in, and I would live another day. But sometimes I just wasn't fast enough, and I wouldn't make it to my room to shut the door completely, and even if there was just the slightest crack, they were stronger than me. They could overpower me and swing the door wide open. It was so frustrating knowing that my life depended on such a very small detail. One would think that being 98% of there on anything would be enough to get the results in your life. When it comes to commitment, it is not. Clayton Christensen, a Harvard Business School professor, wrote something that is very positive about that. He said that it is easier to be 100% committed than 98% or less committed. Why? Because think about it. It is so much easier to make one decision to be committed than be forced to make dozens of decisions every day to keep that commitment. 100% committed means you only need to make the decision one time. That's it. And when the temptation comes for you to break your commitment, you don't have to decide. You've already committed. You remain 100% committed. But when you're 98% or less committed, this forces you to make hundreds of decisions, which leads to decision fatigue, and over time will deplete your ability to keep your commitment. 98% or less committed means that you ultimately won't get there. You ultimately won't become the person you were born to become, nor accomplish your impossible in life. It means that you will try. Truth be told, when you're making a major commitment, it can be scary. You're taking steps into the unknown. And it will require courage. But courage does not mean that you're not scared. Courage means you're scared to death, but you do it anyway. And by the way, you don't have to be a courageous person to have courage. You only need 20 seconds of courage. Think about it. It only takes 20 seconds of courage to pick up the phone and making the call you've been wanting to make, or to ask for forgiveness, or to write your book. As you start living a more committed journey, you will have an added measure of confidence in your journey, and you'll be able to keep commitments and grow from those commitments. And it all starts with commit first. Thank you.